Alright, we should be live. Microphone looks good. We have visuals. Okay, so starting super late today and probably only doing one, hour long segment. So, tomorrow is the pre release for Wilds of Eldraine, and I have been watching limited resources because they are my go to for early evaluation of the cards. I will say this: if you, whoever you watch for things like this, keep in mind there's only so much they can figure out about the set before playing with the cards, and context is super important for where the cards actually stand in their like what their actual power level is in their set versus just how they read, how they should play out, how they feel, that sort of thing. So, no matter who you watch, don't just go, oh, well, they said it's a great card, so I'm going to take every copy of it, or they said it's a terrible card, I am never going to play with it. Um, don't just do that, but do, if you're not sure, it never hurts to get a second opinion from a more experienced player. And I find, I do agree with Marshall and LSV on a lot of their initial evaluations, but I also disagree with them on some of them, so it's helpful for me to see what cards I might be undervaluing, and what cards I might be overvaluing. So if I look at a card and I go, this seems like okay at best, and they're like, no, this is like a B minus, and I'm like, really? And then they'll go into why. So that can be very helpful because I might be missing something about the set. Again, context is super important with where a card's actual power level is. So I do encourage people to watch anyone whose opinions on Magic they value. Just don't substitute that for not thinking about your own cards and the situation you're actually in when you have the physical cards in front of you and you're trying to build a deck. Um, but I do think it helps. In much the same way I do my pre-release prep. Like, I do that for me anyway. I've started doing it as a video for other people to watch. But I'm less concerned with figuring out what the actual power level is on an individual card and figuring out what the tricks are in the set and the wraths. Like, what is going to ambush me and ruin a combat where I was winning. What's going to take the game out of reach for me because all of a sudden all of my stuff died when I had a lethal attack up until that point. You know, what are the cards I need to play around in order to not get blown out? You know, I don't want to walk into the mid-combat instant speed Anthem caliber card and have all of my creatures die because it's like a +3/+0 instead of a +2/+1. You know, I didn't block properly to take into account a massive power boost or something. Or, you know, maybe it's like +1/+3 and all their stuff lives now and some of mine dies, and it's just like, you know, you need to know those things, I feel like, if you want to win, especially the early games in a new format. And pre-releases have decently good prize payout a lot of the time. Sometimes absurd, sometimes only okay, but usually above average for a limited format. So, because Wizards does send extra product to their premier stores to be given out as prizes, and if you don't give those packs out as prizes in some capacity, people will tend to gravitate towards the stores that have extra prize support for them playing the game. So it doesn't really, if you're too greedy with it and try and use it for like stock instead, you're gonna run into problems with that sort of thing unless you just don't have anybody else near you. And living on the East Coast in the U.S., not too far from New York City, there's a lot of card stores just in my area. Like, even with the one not doing anything anymore, there's still, like, there's two different ones I'm going to be going to tomorrow that are both, like, 10 minutes from each other. So, anyway, we're working on Beluna. So, I didn't like calling her Beluna because it sounds too much like her name is Balloon at that point, and that sounds silly. But I think her name is Beluna. Um, Bell meaning beautiful, Luna being moon, and she's a cloud giant up in the sky, so that's probably how her name is supposed to be pronounced, as opposed to Beluna. I could be wrong about that. I keep instinctively leaning towards Beluna, despite the fact that it does sound a little bit silly. Um, but we're going to go. We did the Wilds of Eldraine using the visual spoiler. So today we're going to start with Throne of Eldraine, and if we have enough time, we will go and do Baldur's Gate, because she really cares about adventures. I'll pull her back up real quick in case you didn't get to read her and you didn't pause fast enough. So, permanent spells you cast that have an adventure cost 1 less to cast is her main body. She also mills you 7 cards and then puts everything that had an adventure on it from those milled cards into your hand. So, for 5 mana, you can get up to 7 spells. Probably not. But if you get like 3, I think that's okay. Especially if we have good adventure spells in our deck. So, we're trying to figure out the ones that we most want to run, and fortunately, Throne of Eldraine was where they started with adventures. A lot of them are, like, super weak for Commander and Wilds of Eldraine, because they realized how powerful adventures were. For some reason, Wizards always stumbles a little bit, or not stumbles a little bit, they like to try and push the new thing. They like to err on the side of it being a bit too powerful the first time, even when they should know it's going to be powerful. So when it comes back, there's a higher chance of it being weaker than it was the first time. And this is true for a lot of things. The first equipment in Mirrodin, most of it's insane. Like, at the time especially, equipment has gotten worse as a mechanic in a lot of things, to the point where if the equipment isn't doing something absolutely busted, it's not as good as it used to be. Like, it used to be, it's like, these things are nuts. Like, you put any of them with a cheap equip cost onto any creature, and it makes that creature better, and then that creature trades up, or, you know, eats a removal spell, and then most of its power stays on the equipment and gets moved to the next creature, and so on. And because they know that now, a lot of equipment is kind of only okay. Like, only the best rares and mythics or the best utility uncommon equipment sees any kind of play outside of limited, and even in limited, it's not as good as it used to be. It was true for vehicles. Like, the first handful of vehicles out of Kaladesh, we had like Smuggler's Copter, Sky Sovereign, you know, all these Doomsday, like, even the uncommon ones, if you ever played against the Runaway Freighter, I think it's called, it's like a 3 mana cruise for 1 and becomes a 4/3 trampler on attacks. Like, that's absolutely nuts. So, they pulled it back a lot, and now the uncommon vehicles and even a bunch of the rare vehicles usually don't see any real play outside of limited, and even then sometimes not so much. So it's only like the really top end top end vehicles that see play. So that is also true of adventures. Like, you look at the new ones and it's like, they're okay. You know, the spell is okay, the creature is okay, but you look at the adventures from Throne or from Wilds of Eldraine, and you've got like Bone Crusher Giant. Like, that thing is nuts. That thing defined its format. Like, you couldn't run 2 toughness creatures that weren't, like, heavy value to begin with, because they were just going to get eaten for free by this thing as it passes through to get onto the battlefield and get in combat. So, yeah, there's a lot of much more powerful adventures. The problem with adventures is they're a lot like Flashback, in that they are actually secretly 2 cards whenever you draw them, as long as the adventure side is anything relevant to you. So, Embrace Shieldbreaker, for example. Like, 1 mana, destroy an artifact at sorcery speed, and a 2 mana 2/1, a Goblin Piker. Like, neither of those cards are very good. Neither of those cards are things you're excited to play in any format. Like, even if you needed Human Knights, you could probably do better in your 2-drop slot in red than a random 2/1 with no game text. Even if artifacts are super powerful in the format, a 1 mana sorcery is probably not where you want to be on your artifact destruction. There's probably better options. Getting both together, like getting to pay red to destroy an artifact and then getting to pay red and 1 to play a 2/1 after that, is very similar to a 3 mana 2/1 that comes into play, destroy target artifact, except that you're allowed to break that up or to cast it as a 2/1 without that ability if you need to curve out and there's no artifact to destroy anyway. Like, the versatility on the card and the fact that it is both the spell and the creature dramatically improves how good this card is. Either half of this card is probably like D level limited and like D minus bordering on F for constructed. Being both makes this more like a C card in limited and possibly playable in constructed, especially in standard where there were a bunch of very powerful artifacts. Each color in Eldraine alone had a mythic artifact that had a cost reduction effect on it, and you saw Embercleave and the Great Henge all over the place. So having another card that could kill those is not necessarily a bad thing. And if you're drawing a card when you do it, or copying the effect, because Edgewall Innkeeper and Lucky Clover were things, you got even more value out of it. So, yeah. Starting off as a mediocre spell and a mediocre creature is fine if you get both stapled together, and that's why a lot of the Wilds of Eldraine are, like, super mediocre instead of just mediocre. Because even the mediocre ones are a lot like drawing 2 cards every time you draw one of these things. And it gets way more out of hand with some of the stuff that we're going to be running alongside of them, where the spell might get copied, or the creature will draw us a card, or the spell itself might draw us a card, and then the creature might get, like, we're getting cost reduction on it on top of that for Beluna, so yeah, there's a whole lot going on where they go from medium to much, much better very quickly. So, yeah, Wilds of Eldraine did not have the best adventure cards, because at this point they knew that adventure cards played way better than they looked like they did, so they kind of nerf the power level average on what they did with the cards, so that only a few of them are particularly scary. And unfortunately, a bunch of the ones that were that caliber were like the blue fairy with a white adventure that kills a tapped creature. Like, that's the kind of power level we probably want in a commander deck, is it's a removal spell and then a creature, and then we get all the synergies with adventure spells or creatures that have an adventure from our other cards. So that's a bit unfortunate. Anyway, let's go to the Throne of Eldraine and start adding these cards, because we are definitely going to consider a large portion of them. So, Embrace Shieldbreaker and Battle Display, because we will need artifact removal, and having a card that is an artifact removal spell that we might be able to copy or draw a card off of casting seems like where I want to be at. Because if I spend 1 red and destroy 2 artifacts, or maybe even 3 artifacts, because I think the 1 fairy copies and the Lucky Clover copies, and then we get to draw a card off of Edgewall Innkeeper, I'm going to be thrilled to have a 1 mana sorcery artifact destruction spell in my deck. as opposed to a Shatter with Upside or an Into the Core even at that point, most of the time. Obviously, I might want to have exiled certain things, so that's one of the few ways where I might be sad. But beyond that, I think I would much rather have the synergy that this should have in our deck. So, it's 1 in a red for a human knight, 2/1, and red for an adventure sorcery. Doing a lot more talking than normal today. Beanstalk Giant, and the adventure side is... Yeah, that was the upside to doing it with the visual spoiler, is it was a lot easier to see the spell half of these things at the same time. Oh, right, it was Battle Display that came up first, so Beanstalk Giant. And Fertile Footsteps, or Fertile Footsteps. This is 6 and a green for a giant star, I believe. And 2 and a green for an adventure sorcery. Adventure sorcery. Oops. Okay. Draw your second card each turn. Definitely interested in Bone Crusher Giant. I forget what is it. Stomp, that's what its name was. I could not remember the name of the spell for Bone Crusher Giant. Hyphenated or one word? One word. Giant. 2 in a red. Stomp. And this is... Ooh. The 2 in a red was supposed to be outside the thing. So Stomp. So 2 in a red for a giant. Just a giant, right? They didn't have like warrior type or anything. 4/3. And red in 1 instant. 1 red. Oops, adventure. Instant. Okay. I do not think we want Rimrock Knight. Like, the power bonus is not that impressive. And the 3/1 unable to block body, also not that impressive. Brazen Borrower, on the other hand, yeah. So, Brazen Borrower. Oops. And Petty Theft. So, 1 blue, Fairy Rogue. 3/1. And 1 in a blue, adventure, instant. Right? Pretty sure I remember my Brazen Borrower. Yep. Okay. Animating Fairy and Bring to Life. Target non-creature artifact I control becomes a 4/4 artifact creature. That one seems way less impressive, even with some of the, like, make a food token adventures and such. Like, I don't think that's exactly where I want to be. I don't have any other real synergies with it. That's true, I should be going through the set while I'm going through the set. Don't think we need Barge in. I'm bouncing over all of these spells because I keep focusing on the adventure creatures, but... Okay, so nothing there that I'm missing out on. Embereth buffs my creatures. Garenbrae ramps, but only for green mana. And Vantress is Scry too, and I don't think I need any of them in this deck, like, particularly. Claim the Firstborn. No. Servant, no. Monitor, drawbridge, slipper. Yeah, I probably do want Curious Pair, or at least want to consider them. There's one in a green for a human peasant 3-1. Is it 3-1? I wish there were 3-1. 1-3. And this is green sorcery, make a food. I forget what their other half is. Yeah, green sorcery adventure, make a food. Oops. Sorcery. Yeah, I could not remember if it was an instant or a sorcery. Edgewall Innkeeper. Yes. Yes to Edgewall Innkeeper. Is green for a human peasant 1-1. Right? Human peasant. Yep. I don't believe we need Ember Cleave for anything. Like, it's not what our deck is about at all, so. This gets a card from outside the game only, right? It can't get things from exile. Use a non-creature card you own from outside the game, reveal and put it into your hand. So yeah, we can't really use that one in Commander. Sadly. Don't need that. Don't need the Troll King. Fell the Pheasant. Ferocity of the Wilds. Champion. Witch Stalker. Flaxen Intruder deals combat damage to a player. I may sacrifice it to destroy an artifact or enchantment. The other half is a 7-drop. Makes 3 2/2s. Even with some of the things that copy the adventure, like, if I spent 7 mana and made 9 2/2s, would that be good enough? At sorcery speed, would I actually care? The answer is I don't think so. Like, I don't think the Flaxen Intruder herself is actually that good. And even if I copied this twice, like, let's say I had out the Fairy and the Clover, and I spent 7 mana and got 9 2/2s, like, I don't see that being enough for my 7 mana investment. I think I would rather have almost any of the other adventures that are cheaper to try and, like, draw cards and copy things. So here's Garenbrig Carver. And honestly, I was not particularly, whelmed by the variants on him that were already in Wilds of Eldraine, and his version doesn't seem that much better for Commander. Like, I think the Truffle Snout and the Minecart Rider are actually slightly better. Like, we're spending 1 less mana for the Minecart Rider and getting a 4/2, and the Adventurer is +2/+1 instead of +2/+2. So I have to believe that we're doing better not bothering with Garenbrig Carver. I don't think we want Gadwick, right? Yeah, the triple blue's not anything. It's not helping what the deck is trying to do, and it's triple blue on top of that, and we can do something else for card draw at that point. I don't need the Garenbrig Squire, even though he cares about creature spells with adventures. Gilded Goose, not anything we need. Each other non-human you control enters the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter on it. Merchant of the Veil and Haggle. Probably will want Lovestruck Beast, because there are a bunch of different things that make 1/1 tokens that we currently have, so that one shouldn't be dismissed, but let's check the merchant first. So I may discard a card if I do draw a card. So unfortunately, this doesn't work the same way if you copy a Tormenting Voice does. Since the discard is not an additional cost to cast the spell, you still have to discard a card for each copy in order to draw the card. And 3 mana in order to rummage. I mean, there are cards that are letting me draw cards just for casting adventures or creatures that have an adventure, so yeah, like the merchant is probably better than some of the other janky ones. I just need to check the Edgewalling Keeper. I think he's cast a creature that has an adventure, and I need to double check that. Cast a creature spell that has an adventure, so he will not trigger off of the artifacts from Baldur's Gate or the Virtues enchantments from Wilds. Which is still fine. Like, most of the adventure creatures, or most of the adventure cards are creatures, even in those sets, so we're probably okay. So this is Merchant of the Veil and Haggle. Merchant of the Veil and Haggle. This is 2 and a red for a human peasant 2/3, and red for an adventure sorcery. Right? Oh, it's an instant. Okay, that actually helps him a bit. Being a sorcery would make him even worse, but Lovestruck Beast and Heart's Desire, which would actually go before the merchant. Lovestruck Beast, Heart's Desire is 2 and a green for a beast. Noble, 5/5. That's what I thought, but I couldn't remember if they bothered making their version a noble. And green for a sorcery, make a 1/1. Yeah. Oops. Adventure. Hypnotic Sprite. The adventure side is counter a non-creature spell, I think. Oh no, counter any spell, mana value 3 or less. It's medium. I will still consider it though. Hypnotic Sprite. Is it Mesmerizing Gaze? Mesmeric Glare. Mesmeric. This was blue for a fairy wizard or rogue? Just a fairy. Okay. For fairy 2/1. And then 2 and a blue for an adventure instant. Okay. I don't think we need Improbable Alliance for anything. 3 less to cast, draw 4 cards. No. Pyromancer, Joust. 1 or more non-human creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. We actually have a bunch of random humans. Like, there are a bunch of humans that go on adventures. There's humans that pay us off for adventures. Some of them make human tokens. Yeah, I think we can do better for our card draw. There's the Lucky Clover, which, again, we are absolutely running. That is one of the better cards for us in this deck. So, Lucky Clover. 2-mana artifact. Don't need Mad Ratter, Marrowleaf Pixie. There's the Merchant. I don't think we need Secret Keeper. Like, milling our opponent's 4 cards is not doing anything for our deck. So, any of these. Oaken Boon, and the body is a 5-mana 6/5 or 6-mana 6/5. 6-mana 6/5. Yeah, this is just so unappealing on both ends. I don't think so. Like, I like the Picnic Nabber more than that. Because at least that one, you can distribute the counters. Oh, that's right. Oko is in our color scheme right now, isn't he? Don't need the adversary for anything. Errant. More creature loses all abilities, becomes a 3/3, and it can exchange. I mean, Oko's just raw power. I suppose we can consider him. I don't know that we're going to need his raw power, but since we are in the early portion and he is that powerful, starts off at like 5, right? 4, and then you plus him. Thought I heard something. Maybe it was all the people groaning at the idea of running Oko in this deck that, you know, doesn't care about food all that much. Where he would definitely at least fit the theme. Don't need the accomplices for anything. Hospitality now. Right, there's no reason to run the other one, is there? Alright, creature you control, prevent all damage that would be dealt to him this turn. Each creature you control is a base 10/10 with trample. Nope. Need Once in Future, Once Upon a Time. Petty Theft. The Queen of Ice and her Rage of Winter. Deals combat damage to a creature, tap it doesn't untap. Tap target creature at sorcery speed, doesn't untap. Yeah, I'm not really feeling that one either. Questing Beast has infinite text. None of it's really relevant to what we're doing. Double Strike, can't be blocked by knights or walls. No. +3/+3. Again, we have a bunch of random humans on the list. Rosethorn Acolyte and its Ritual. Maybe? We are a 3-color deck, and if we copy the Seasonal Ritual, we do make more mana than it costs to cast it, so it actually becomes a ritual effect instead of a filter. Yeah, I can talk myself into this. So, Rosethorn Acolyte. Acolyte. And Ritual of... Was it Ritual of? No, it's Seasonal Ritual. Seasonal Ritual. Alright, so it's 2 and a green. It's an Elf Druid. Elf Druid 2/3. And then green for an adventure sorcery, I believe. I think it's an instant. Didn't think so. Okay. I don't need the halberd or the roving keep. Each of up to 2 target creatures. They can't block this turn. And insurrection for our ultimate. Yeah, I don't think I need anything like that. Away together. Sage of the Falls. Scorching Dragonfire. Light, no. Steelbane Hydra. It's the Stomp. Yeah, the further we get into it, the less likely we are to find another adventure because we should have seen all of them, either as themselves or their adventure. Cercara cares when I deal non-combat damage. Eleonora draws me a card, and that buffs her power. Baron cares about her own power and boosts my other creatures. We need any of them. Do we want the Great Henge at all? A lot of our adventures are on creatures, so there's a lot of non-token creatures potentially coming into play that we can use to draw a card. We also have some okay sized creatures to reduce the casting cost on it. I guess I will consider the Great Henge. 7 green artifact. Don't have a ton of 5-drop spells though for the Snapper. With a page counter on it, commander enters the battlefield or attacks, put a page counter on it, move a page counter, draw a card. Nope. Tree Folk. Keeper. Welcome Home. Wicked Wolf, no. Full Merfolk, Witch's Oven. Workshop Elders and Yorvo. So no, but let's go down to the commander sets because we do want to add Arcane Signet from the Brawl deck. Because we're a 3-color deck and we're going to want some ramp. And I will at least consider Arcane Signet. We do have access to green and blue though, so green-blue cards that let us play extra lands and draw cards when we play lands are certainly things we might consider. Alright, so now we need Commander Master, or Commander Legends, Baldur's Gate. Where are we at? We're at 40 minutes. Yeah, we have enough time to at least go through this one, I think. Then we'll call it there. After all, I barely streamed today, so we want to get in some streaming. I don't think I care about the initiative at all in this deck. Under opponent's control causes the triggered ability of that creature to trigger. You may copy that ability and choose new targets for the copy. Don't need it. Then exile a card from your hand and put a number of time counters on equal to its mana value. It gains whenever the last time counter is removed from this card. If it's exiled, I may cast it without paying its mana cost. If you cast a creature spell this way, it gains haste. Then remove a time counter from each card you own in exile. Up to 1 target attacking creature can't be blocked this turn. Return that creature to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. I mean, buying back the adventure creature so I can get the adventure triggers again does not sound terrible, and it's making them unblockable. and she doesn't have to attack if I don't want her to. Alright. So, Battle for Baldur's Gate. This is Alora the Merry Thief. Is 2 and a blue, halfling, rogue, 3/2. X is the greatest power among creatures you control and creature cards in your graveyard. Amethyst Dragon is a 6-man, so it's a volcanic dragon. What is its adventure side, though? Deals 4 damage divided as you choose among any number of targets. Yeah, if I'm getting to copy that, that seems really good. So, Amethyst Dragon, Explosive Crystal. Amethyst Dragon, Explosive Crystal. So Amethyst is 4 red for a dragon, 4/4, because it is a volcanic dragon, and the other side is a pyrotechnics, just straight up like red and 4, sorcery speed adventure. Of note, for the ones that copy the adventure spell, the damage distribution stays copied, but the targets can be shifted. So, if we deal 2 damage to one creature and 1 damage to another creature and 1 damage to a player, and we copy it, we have to deal 2 damage to one target and 1 damage to each of the other 2 targets. But they don't have to be, like, the same, or even the same types. Like, we can move it around however we want to. So that is relevant when trying to figure out how to distribute the damage, because sometimes you'll want to kill a 3 toughness creature by dealing 2 to it with 1 copy and 1 to something else, and, you know, and then when we do the copy, we'll deal the 1 to the thing we dealt 2 to in order to finish it off. Do we need any of the ancient dragons? Roll a d20, put X counters, make X treasures, draw X cards. They're all medium. +0 and can't be blocked this turn. And what's the other half of her? What does the Sea Hag herself do? Enters the battlefield, creatures your opponents control get -4/-0 until end of turn. Without having a way to put her in an instant speed, that's very medium. The adventure is fine. Making 2 of my creatures unblockable and giving them an extra point of power might be relevant at some point in time. Getting to copy that might be relevant, but having her come down, make all of our opponent's creatures less powerful so that we can attack into them is not where I want to be at. Yeah, unfortunate, but I don't think we need that. Reveal an artifact card, put it in your hand, the rest on the bottom in a random order. Create a token that's a copy of target artifact I control. I would love to have more Lucky Clovers, but I think I need a better way to do that than Artificer class. Like Astral Dragon. Except that they're 3/3 dragons in addition to their other types, and they have flying. Unfortunately, it's an 8-drop, and it's an 8-drop that scares people to death because there are so many things that you can copy that will get completely out of hand with Astral Dragon, but yeah, I don't think we actually need it. Take the initiative, no. This is a goading thing. Yeah. Attacks or dies, choose one or more. Target opponent draws 3, then discards 3 at random. Target opponent sacrifices a non-token artifact. Deals damage to target opponent equal to the number of cards in their hand. Don't need band together. Bane's Contingency. Barroom Brawl. Alright, so Young Dragon falls into the same category as the Grasping Giant, in that it's 2 mana to make a treasure, so copy it, it's neutral, reduce its cost, or copy it again and it nets me mana. Young Red Dragon. Save in gold. So the Young Red Dragon is red and 3 for a 3/2 dragon. Dragon. Gun. Nope, dragon. And at the end for dragon. 3/2. And then 1 in a red, venture instant. Battle Mammoth, Beast Within, Falls Invoker, no. Take the initiative, go to creature. Some closet. Lock, yeah. Air. Breath weapon. Heart. Campfire. Creatures you control have base power and toughness XX, where X is the number of cards you own in exile and in your graveyard that are instant cards, sorcery cards, and or have an adventure. Even if I ran, like, if my 60 cards included 20 instant sorceries and adventures, which we might even be able to get higher than that. We need to get like 5 of them. Although it does count in exile too, so it's not like it matters if an opponent exiles our graveyard. It matters if they cast like Endurance or something to put them on the bottom of my deck, but hello. Shall I just call you Ed then? How are you doing today? Thank you for the follow. Welcome to the channel. I guess it's worth considering. At the end of the day, we should have enough cards in our deck that this thing will actually boost all of our creatures when we cast it. I just don't know if we need an actual overrun type effect. That's not like, would we be better off... If this thing is good, would we be better off with a different overrun? I am doing fine. Looking forward to tomorrow and the new set drop. So, Bloom 4, Sorcery. Yeah, we'll put it on the list, because at least it's on theme. Alright, now for our Serpent. So, when we had the problem before with the couldn't target our own creatures with the bounce spell, Sword Coast Serpent does get around that. Can't be blocked as long as you've cast a non-creature. It's also a decent-sized evasion creature, if a bit overcosted. Yeah, we can let him onto the list. So, what is his actual name? Sword Coast Serpent. Serpent is 5 blue. It's just a serpent. Serpent Dragon. Good for it. 6/6. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I have a person for that sort of thing already. She's actually a friend of mine. So I'm not really. If I'm looking for any of that, I would go to her for that sort of thing. So I appreciate the offer, but I'm gonna have to shoot you down on that one. Sorry. This is 1 in a blue instant adventure. And that is Capsizing Wave. Hey, it's all the castles again. I don't think we need, again, don't need the initiative, so we won't need the Caves of Chaos adventure. We have enough ways to deal with problematic permanents. We don't need Chaos Warp. No. Commander creatures you control have 2 second artifact, put a 1/1 counter on this creature, and draw a card. Nah. If a creature card was put into your graveyard from anywhere this turn, create 2 1/1 squirrels. Nope. +1/+1 counter on the Swarm Lord? No. Colossal Badger. Enters the battlefield, I gain 3 life. What's its adventure? What else are you trying to do for me, Colossal Badger? Choose target creature, mill 4 cards, and put a 1/1 counter on that creature for each creature card milled this way. No. I'm sorry, Colossal Badger. That is not where I'm looking to be at with my adventure cards. Reprints. Death Kiss is a goad creature. This only cares when I cast it from exile, right? Yeah. Put 2 descent counters on it, then each player creates X treasure and deals X damage to each player based on the number of counters on it. Nope. Counter target activated or triggered ability from a non-creature source. If this was just counter and activated or triggered ability, I'd be so interested in having this. You know my feelings at this point in time on things like Thassa's Oracle, so having an innate answer that is one of our like things that we're building around. I wouldn't mind running a mediocre 6 mana 4/4 flying trample to get an adventure with that effect on it, but it's not good to copy, but it is an okay effect to have. Like countering something like an O-Stone activation or what other, like that's the first thing that leaps to mind is like a Nev's Disc type thing, so O-Stone or Perilous Vault. It's only okay at countering certain other things, but anything like that, like an activated ability to destroy one of our permanents, maybe, or to exile one of our permanents, would probably be worth it. It could also save our things from like O-Stone, or not O-Stone, O-Ring effects. Comes into play, it exiles a permanent, as long as it's not one of the creature ones that's doing it. Alright, fine, I'll consider it. It still counters enough. This is Emerald Dragon. Emerald Dragon. And the spell half is called Dissonant Wave. There we go. Dissonant Wave. So 4 green for a dragon, 4/4, and 2 and a green for an adventure instant. Alright. Yeah, I would like it if it were any more versatile than it already is. I'd have a very easy time throwing it into the deck. As it stands, it's still probably worth considering. Hmm. I'm looking at the Muralist because there are multiple dragons in this set that have adventures attached to them that we're going to be running anyway. Like, we've already put the Amethyst and the Emerald plus the Young Red on the list, and I think there's like 1 or 2 other ones we're probably going to consider, if not definitely run, so. Yeah, we probably still don't need them, though. Alright, Dread Lindworm, what have you got for me? I believe this one is an instant speed combat trick, unlike the other ones. And gives it hexproof. It's an expensive trick, but it is actually a trick that would save our creature from a removal spell. And then the 7/6, unless they have a bunch of anthems, is not going to get blocked by a bunch of tokens or utility creatures. They're going to need to put something real in front of it. It's not amazing, but yeah, okay, I'll give it a shot. This is Dread Lindworm. Oh, I call that thing Candlekeep, not its actual name. I think it's Candlekeep Research or something. And the spell is Scale Up, I think. Scale Deflection. There's a spell called Scale Up then, and I think it's similar to this, where it's like a flash thing that puts counters on it. It might be from Khans of Tarkir, now that I'm thinking about it. I think it's a very similar spell. Oops. So the Lindworm itself... Oh, it's a Linorm, not a... Lindworm is from... Oh, Lindworm is actually a real word, too. So Linorm... Also a real word. Huh. Okay. It always surprises me when these weird fantasy sounding words actually are real words. Like, even if they are fantasy things, like they're officially in the lexicon somewhere. This is a snake dragon. 7/6. And 3 and a green. For an adventure instant. Yeah, we're giving up efficiency for a lot of these spells. Like, they're either sorceries or overcosted or sometimes a little bit of both, in order to get the extra advantage that we get when we cast spells with adventures on them and the discount that we get for Beluna herself. Think we need any of these? Take the initiative, gain 3 life, yeah. Tax top 4 cards of your library. Exile a creature card from among them. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. For as long as that card remains exiled, you may cast it. That spell has Undaunted. Costs 1 less for each opponent. So this is interesting. He has to be the one attacking, though, is the downside. So we have to have good attacks with him, and he's a hill giant, so that's not great. So the adventure spells attached to creatures are creatures when he sees them, so they would be something we could choose to exile. Then we could cast them as either the adventure half, which would send them back to exile. They would lose Undaunted because they left that zone. They were successfully cast or countered or whatever. So they would leave that zone, so they won't have Undaunted anymore, even if they go back to exile after that. But we could cast the adventure still with the Undaunted discount, because we have permission to cast that card. So as long as the adventure side is a legal thing to cast at that point. Like, he's not giving us permission to cast creature spells we own in exile that he put there. He's just giving us permission to cast the card that we exiled. So that does technically work. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think he's quite good enough. Like I said, if it was when I attack, I could do this. So it wouldn't necessarily have to be him getting into combat, because I don't think we're running things that make him threatening at all, or evasive. So he's just going to wind up stumbling into combat and getting killed, most likely. But even if we have a good attack, we get to look at the top 4 and get a creature with an adventure, hopefully. Like, that's okay. So, yeah, I don't think so. For each opponent, create a token that's a copy of up to 1 creature they control. Enchant creature you control, make a 1/1 token copy of it. When the enchanted creature dies, if it was a horror, Endless Evil goes back to my hand. Alright, the Ettercap can kill a flyer only, I think. But let's ask him. Ettercap, what do you kill? Destroy target creature with flying. I mean, you're almost always going to find a target for this. Like, a lot of the really cool commander creatures just happen to be big old flyers. It's very rare you run into an opponent that just doesn't have anything that this can hit. I mean, you might run into an opponent, but the odds of the other 2 to 3 players at the table not having any flyers between them is pretty rare, let alone not having enough flyers that we could kill multiple flyers. The problem is that it's 3 mana to kill a flying creature and 5 mana for a 2/5 reach. And neither of those are particularly good. So, are there actually consistently enough flyers where I could get like a 2-for-1 and then maybe I can draw a card off of casting this idiot, and then I won't feel anywhere near as bad? Because that's always the thing. If I can draw cards for casting the adventure side, or if I killed a creature and wound up with a 2/5 that's holding off some like medium utility flyer, you know, like a Mechanaut that's reducing their artifact casting costs by 1, and now they can't get in for 2 damage while they're at it on me, or you know, it's holding off some like spirit tokens or even an angel token, so I'm taking less damage or no damage. Yeah, I guess that's technically good enough. So this is Ettercap. It's a spider, right? It's actually a spider. Yeah. It's 4 and a green. So Ettercap and Webshot. So 4 green, spider, beast, 2/5, right? Yeah. And 2 and a green. At least it's an instant on this one. Like a bunch of the adventures that can kill a permanent that we have on this list are sorceries as their drawback. So that's not the worst. There's the explosive crystal, half of Amethyst Dragon. Cast a spell from exile or land enters under your control from exile. Create a 2/2 green wolf token. So every adventure spell I cast, when I cast the actual permanent version of it, I get a free 2/2. And I can rummage. Except that the card goes to exile and I have permission to play it this turn. Yeah. She is working with what I'm doing, so I will consider her. Valdorn. Red Wolf Herald. Red Wolf Herald. This is 1 red green human druid 3/3. Take the initiative. Create a 1/1. No. Whenever one or more non-token creatures you control deal damage to a player, make a 1/1 fairy dragon creature token with flying. Enters the battlefield, gain control of target creature you don't control until end of turn. Untap it. It gains haste and myriad. One or more dragons you control attack an opponent. Goad target creature that player control. Creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents. If that creature had to attack this combat, put a 1/1 counter on the instigator and draw a card. Yeah. I don't need Font of Magic. Forgotten Creation. Fang Dragon and Forktail Sweep. Sweep deals 1 damage to each creature you don't control. What's the dragon look like? Is the dragon any good at all? It's a 7 mana 6/3 flyer. So the answer to my question was no. No, it is not. Okay. That's fine. Cast an instant or sorcery from your hand. You may cast up to 1 card of the other type from your graveyard. Will be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. Direction. Or another dragon enters the battlefield under your control, make a treasure. No. Menace and Myriad. Spy Master. Can't be blocked. +2/+0 as long as you control a commander that's a creature or planeswalker. Counter target activate or trigger ability of an artifact or enchantment source. If a permanent's ability is countered this way, destroy that permanent. This is the one that gives my horrors activate abilities of target artifact and opponent controls. No opponent has more life than that player. You create 2 treasures. Another creature or artifact. If you do, create a 4/1 black skeleton token with menace. But Gut is only a 3 mana 2/2. Although it is whenever I attack, so I don't have to attack with Gut itself. Target token becomes a bear as a 4/4. Hmm. I do have a few things that make food tokens, is the thing. I could also make, like, the rats that can't block into 4/4s, or the human token from Lovestruck Beast into a 4/4. I guess I would need to see how many more tokens I'm making, because right now I'm not making a ton, and that's not a focal point of the deck, so. Um, Queen, Ignite the Future. Mystical Trickster. Yeah. Target tapped non-token creatures face down their 2/2 horrors. One or more artifacts enter the battlefield on your control deals that much damage to each opponent. Again, it's not a focal point of the deck to be making these tokens. It's just something that the adventurers happen to do. Top 3 cards of your library. You may play those cards. Create 3 treasure. Target creature opponent controls can't block this turn. Goad it. Create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, except that token has flying and it is not legendary. Meh. Like, just go back and double check her, like, how much would I care if my spells cost 2 less? And the answer is not enough. Jaheira is also okay for all the tokens I make, but not essential. Think I passed anything else? No, okay. Those were reprints. For X basic lands, number of creatures attacking me. Put them onto the battlefield tapped, and prevent all combat damage that will be dealt this turn. Enters the battlefield for each opponent. Tap up to 1 target creature that player controls. Whenever I attack, if it's the first combat phase, untap all attacking creatures. I gain first strike. And after this, there's an additional combat step. Probably not. Corlessa, Scale Singer. Yeah, of note, since I only have permission to cast dragon spells, Corlessa does not actually let me cast any of the adventures from the dragons. Whenever you cast an adventure or dragon spell, deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to any target that isn't a commander. Yes. I don't think I wanted Loot Dispute. Did I want the Cultist of Tiamat? Eh, not really. Like, yes, technically she does work with the adventure since they're non-creature spells, but... Alright, so this is Lozhan, or Lozon. Dragon's Legacy. This is 3 red, blue for a Dragon Shaman for 2. Battlefield with additional 1/1 counter on it. Other creatures you control enter the battlefield with additional 1/1 counter on them. Yeah, we're not really a Dragons deck. Sorry, Mirim. The Mind Flayer. Minskin Boo. So, enter the battlefield, you create Boo, +1, put 3 counters on it, gains trample and haste. Oh, on a creature that has either trample or haste. Yeah, not quite that good. Sacrifice a creature. When you do, deals damage to any target, where X is its power. And if you sacrificed a hamster, draw X cards. And they can be your commander. Creature an opponent controls. Nope. Ah, there's the monster manual. Alright, monster manual, what is your adventure? Like, I'm already not super thrilled with it. Mill 5 cards and return a creature card milled this way to your hand. Meh and meh. Like, some of our creatures are not great, but most of them have adventures attached to them. So, bypassing their casting cost from the hand means that we're just not getting the adventure portion of them. So, I'm going to have to go with no. Target artifact or enchantment? No. Cast a spell from exile, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. If it's a permanent spell, the copy gains haste, and at the beginning of the end step, sacrifice this permanent. Yeah, that works. We get a second copy of each of our adventure creatures. Granted, it doesn't last past that turn, but... Feshni? Yeah. Is 5 and a red for a beast demon. It is a 4/6. So yeah, making an extra copy of even like our medium creatures like Emerald Dragon, Amethyst Dragon especially, since it's already a Volcanic Dragon, so it's going to come in with haste, so we get to attack for 8 that turn, if we can. And if we need blockers back, we still have, like, the token attacking, and then we just have the regular one back anyway. And that's assuming that we can't cast any of the adventures from exile somehow, at which point we would send the card back to exile. Similarly to what I was talking about with the one guy before. So if we can find some stuff that's doing that, which we already have what's-her-name, who's letting us make a 2/2. So if we were to exile the top card of our deck and it was an adventure creature and we cast the adventure side of it, we could copy the adventure side of it with the Nalfeshni and then put it back in exile, cast the creature, and copy the creature. So that might be good enough to merit putting it in the deck. Don't need the Noble's Purse. It's 2/2, put 2/1/1 counters on it, put 4/1/1 counters on them. Attacks a player who controls 8 or more lands. Top 8 cards of your library. Put a creature from among them onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking that player. Yeah, that... Putting the things into play directly bypasses a lot of the things that... Like, a lot of the benefits we would have of running the card in the first place. Like, the actual creatures themselves are not the best, or even, like, particularly good, relatively speaking, so we have to generate as much value as possible from them being an adventure and a creature. Whenever you cast a spell from exile, this creature deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to target opponent. I mean, kind of. Yeah. Alright, so 1 in a red for an enchant. Yeah, we're getting all of these cards that work with, like, Prosper from this set. Because we're casting adventure creatures, which means they're getting cast from exile. This is the one that gives flying, right? Oh yeah, because this is the actual adventure. Enters the battlefield, draw cards equal to the number of opponents who are dealt combat damage this turn. Alright, getting to draw a couple extra cards off of her is probably good enough. So this is, like, to consider at least. This is Moonshy. I think we missed her, actually, in the main list. Because this is her Pixie Dust entry, right? So I think I glossed over her. I probably thought she was the Hypnotic Sprite again. So 3 in a blue. Her other side is... Oops. Green and blue, fairy 2/2. This is 1 in a blue, venture instant. I mean, in theory, that enables some of our mediocre creatures to attack in for damage against somebody without flyers, so that way we can draw an extra card or two. If it enables attacks we didn't otherwise have. Still not amazing, though. Unfortunately. Attacks double the power of each dragon you control. No. Oh, right. I forgot about the Tillin Kali Hunter. So let's see. We don't need Thunderwave, right? We don't need Tiamat's followers. Alright. Let's take a look at the weird Scorpion Man monster thing. Alright, so... Exile target creature card from your graveyard until the end of your next turn. You may cast that card. Trample. Once each turn, you may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for a creature spell you cast from exile. I mean, still, yes. Alright, so LMNOPQRST. So TLINCALLI Hunter. And Retrieve Prey was its other half. This is 5 green. It is a Scorpion Scout. Scorpion, not Scorpion. 7/7. And this is 1 in green for an adventure sorcery. Okay. I don't need the Tomb of Horrors adventure. There's the Outlands. Two-handed axe. Gives double strike. Double its power until end of turn. Sweeping cleave. Target creature you control gains double strike. Most of our creatures are not good enough for this to be like the amazing thing that I want it to be. But it's okay. Not great. So this is two-handed axe. If and yeah. Get it that time? Yeah, okay. Sweeping cleave. This is 2 in a red, an artifact, and 1 in a red, adventure instant. I mean, it's decent enough with Beluna herself being a 3 mana 4/4 trampler. So, doubling her power and possibly like giving her double strike and then casting this. The problem is that I would really rather have it double the power and then give the equipped creature double strike. But I'm guessing that would have been too strong, so. I don't need Undermountain Adventurer. Brask. Go to creature attacks, deals 1 damage to its controller. Exile cards from the top of your library to exile land, put that card on the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order, and then exile it with time counters on it, and it has suspend. Can't be spent to cast spells from my hand. The 4 mana 2/3 that taps for ostensibly 3 colorless to cast spells from exile, the top of my deck, and my graveyard. Or to activate abilities. Still seems underwhelming. Nope. One of its creature types that hasn't been noted for this artifact. 2 tap, draw a card for each creature type noted for target permanent you control named Volo's Journal. Don't think so. Need Wand of Wonder. Artifact or creature, exile the top card of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play that card. Reveals cards from the top of their library till they reveal a permanent card that shares a card type with the permanent destroyed. I don't need Wild Magic Sorcerer. Wilson. Don't need Will in his dice rolling. Prevent all combat damage to be dealt to you and creatures you control this turn. Target creature gets +5/+5 and gains indestructible until end of turn. All creatures your opponents control able to block that creature this turn do so. Oh, there's Young Blue Dragon. Try one, then draw a card. It's a 5 mana 3/3 flyer. I mean, Sand Augury doesn't seem that bad, so. Red Dragon. Young Blue Dragon. Sand Augury. Augury? There we go. So, 4 and a blue for a 3/3. Yeah. One in a blue. Adventure. Sorcery. Caught stealing. Blocks this turn if able. Create a treasure token for each opponent that was dealt damage this turn. Whenever a player mills one or more creature cards, make a 1/1 black horror. One tap, target player mills 3 cards. And there's still one more page. Hey, I definitely saw all of these before. Oh, we were on 5. Okay. I don't know why I thought we had one more page. Real quick, back to 4. Because I feel like we didn't see Sand Augury or Sea's Prey, so I feel like I skipped over a page somewhere. And while we might not want... Like, there might not be any other adventure cards. That's true, the Illithid is an adventure card. And it locks down a bunch of our opponent's creatures, potentially. Like, I was not thinking of that for the front face, but I kind of forgot that it had the adventure side to it also. So... And that does turn a bunch of our opponent's creatures into 2/2s, which are way easier for us to deal with. So... Illithid... Harvester... and Plant Tadpoles. So this is a 5-mana 4/4 horror, it looks like. Blue, horror, 4/4. And then the other side is X blue blue, sorcery, adventure. Yeah, you probably consider that still. Don't need the impetus, I don't think. Plus, this isn't where it came from. Pseudo. Yeah, there's Sapphire Dragon, and that has the counter a non-creature spell. I definitely skipped over this page then. Oh, no, it's a Pseudo Dragon. I need the Sapphire Dragon. Sapphire Dragon. I mean, the dragon's not particularly good, but having a counterspell and then eventually being able to cast this dumb thing is probably fine. So, Sapphire Dragon. And the spell side is called Psionic Pulse. And the dragon is 5 blue blue. For a dragon, it's a 5/6. The other side is 2 in a blue. An adventure instant. Betis, Raga Draga. Spy Giants. Reckless Barbarian. Collections, Reigns of Power. Dragon spells and artifact spells as though they had flash. There's the Retrieve Prey. Shaman, Warlock, or Wizard. She's a giant noble, right? Yeah. Say, Sailor's Bane. Each card you own an exile in your graveyard that's an instant sorcery or card that has an adventure. It's a 9-mana 7/7 Ward 4. Like, that only seems okay at best. So, yeah. Have 3. This Creature becomes a copy of another target creature. +X+X. X is the greatest power among other dragons you control or dragon cards in your graveyard. No. Double strike counter on target creature, then goad each creature that had a double strike counter put on it this way. Overload. Gains menace and haste. Nope. When you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell X times, choose new targets. Damage to any target. Oh. Go target creature and opponent controls. Tavern Brawler, Tectonic Giant. Okay, so that should be all of the actual cards on the list. And we're at like an hour and a half, so I'm going to call it here. I wanted to get through the 2 other sets that had adventures so we could see how many adventure spells we actually had to work with and get a feel for if we had enough to actually make a deck with Beluna, and I think we barely do, which is kind of where I was at initially. So we will have to see what we can do with the rest of her spells. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Have a good rest of your day.